Every time you blow out a candle on your birthday cake, you think you're celebrating a year gained, right?
So absolutely, that's the default assumption.
Yeah, you gather your friends, you cut the cake, you add another number to your age, and there's this universal unspoken expectation of addition. You are getting older.
Right.
The number goes up, the calendar turns, and we just treat it like we're accumulating time. Like we're, putting trophies on a shelf.
Right, like an upward trajectory.
Exactly. But what if the fundamental laws of thermodynamics prove you are actually celebrating a year lost? What if that calendar you're staring at is just the biggest, most comforting lie we have collectively agreed to believe?
It's a staggering thought, honestly, because like you said, we're entirely conditioned to view time as this upward climb. More years, more life.
Yeah.
We look at time as a long, open highway that we're just cruising down, covering more and more distance. But when you stepped into the framework we are unpacking today, that entire highway metaphor just completely collapses.
It totally shatters.
It does. Because we are looking at a landscape of biological physics and existential reality that is completely counterintuitive to everything we celebrate.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because today's deep dive is centered on this profoundly disruptive, unified framework developed by Dr. Khaled Waleed.
Yes.
He calls it the theory of dual time, or sometimes he refers to it as the architecture of age. And what Dr. Waleed has done here is just, it's nothing short of audacious.
Audacious is definitely the right word for it.
Right. He has taken hard biological science, the foundational laws of thermodynamics, and these deep Quranic philosophies, and he's woven them all together to completely dismantle how you and I understand aging, time, and, human existence itself.
And dismantle really is the perfect word.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Waleed's central argument is that time is not just some passive, invisible line that we walk across.
Like a backdrop.
Exactly. It's not just a backdrop to your life. Time, in his framework, is an active physical and existential force.
Yeah.
And here is the core premise that changes everything. Dr. Waleed asserts that time is a face that first builds you, actively constructing your existence from nothing, and then, at the exact precise millisecond of your birth, it flips.
It just turns on you.
Right, it flips. It becomes a force that begins to actively consume you.
Which is terrifying, honestly, but also incredibly fascinating.
Oh, it really is.
So to really understand why that exact moment of birth is such a radical turning point, Dr. Waleed says we have to look at what happens before you're even born. We have to completely step away from the concept of a wall clock or like the calendar app on your phone and look at the actual biological reality of the womb.
Yes, exactly. And this brings us to Dr. Waleed's concept of the time of formation, or what he terms in Arabic, zaman al-takwin.
Zaman al-takwin.
Right. He argues that from the moment of conception up until the moment of birth, time is strictly a building force. It is an era of pure, unadulterated addition.
So, mechanically speaking, what is actually happening during this time of formation? Because I think we just view 9 months of pregnancy as, waiting to be born.
Waiting in the staging area, yeah.
Right, exactly. But Waleed frames it as something much more active.
It's intensely active.
Yeah.
Think about it biologically and structurally. Every single second you spend in the womb, you are gaining.
Gaining mass.
You are adding physical mass, yes, but also your neurological complexity is multiplying exponentially. We're talking about millions of neural connections forming every minute.
Wow.
Your cellular count is just exploding.
Right.
And in Dr. Waleed's philosophical terms, your existential probability is increasing.
Existential probability.
Yeah, you are being pulled from absolute zero total non-existence into full physical realization.
He uses this incredible phrase to describe the womb in his work, actually. He calls it a cosmic open restaurant.
Yes, love that.
Which I love, too, because it paints such a vivid picture for you listening. It's this environment that is just constantly, ceaselessly pumping sustenance and energy into the fetus.
Constantly.
You're just sitting at the table, and the universe is serving you existence course after course nonstop, and you aren't even paying the bill.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. But let's dig into why you aren't paying the bill.
Yeah.
Because in this restaurant, the time that is passing isn't aging you in the way we traditionally think of aging.
Right.
The time is literally manufacturing you. It is a state of positive entropy flow.
Wait, I need to push back on that for a second.
Sure.
The universe doesn't just give out free energy, right? If the womb is the state of negative entropy where time is building you and fighting off chaos, isn't someone paying the thermodynamic cost for that? Right. Like, the universe isn't just handing you order out of nowhere, it's extracting it from the mother, right? How does Dr. Waleed account for that in this time of formation?
That is a brilliant point, and it's exactly why Dr. Waleed refers to the fetus as an open system during this phase.
Okay, an open system.
Yes, you are right. The mother is the thermodynamic buffer. She is processing all the chaotic energy of the outside world, breaking down food, breathing in oxygen, fighting gravity, and she's paying that steep metabolic cost to filter all of that into highly organized, low-entropy fuel.
So she's taking the hit.
She absolutely takes the hit of the universe's chaos so that the fetus doesn't have to. For the fetus, the womb is this sheltered pocket of reality where the normal rules of decay are completely suspended.
That's wild.
The universe, via the mother, is investing massive amounts of energy into your system to organize it, to build you from basic elements into a highly complex functioning human being.
So biologically speaking then, under Dr. Waleed's framework, our age actually starts at -9 months.
Precisely. Your biological age begins in the negative. Every single day in the womb is pulling you up towards zero.
It makes me think of building up a massive savings account.
Okay.
Like, during this time of formation, the clock is doing what we could call a count up. Time is completely your ally. Every tick of the clock is a deposit into your account. You are hoarding all this vital biological capital.
Yes, exactly. The count-up phase. You are accumulating the vital currency you will need for the rest of your existence. But let's expand on your savings account analogy to really capture Dr. Waleed's point here.
Okay, go for it.
Imagine you are building this savings account in an economy where inflation is incredibly aggressive.
Right.
In the womb, someone else, the mother, the system, is making constant deposits that vastly outpace that inflation. Your wealth is skyrocketing. But this is where Dr. Waleed introduces the pivotal shift, the shock of birth.
Right, because we treat birth as the starting line. We throw a party, day one of life.
But according to Dr. Waleed, birth is not the beginning of life. Birth is the absolute peak of the curve. It is the top of the mountain. The exact moment you are born, you are abruptly disconnected from that absolute womb restaurant. The umbilical cord is cut, and you are severed from that infinite maternal supply of energy.
And you are on your own.
You are suddenly forced to exist as a limited, isolated human vessel in a very harsh, highly entropic environment.
So the savings account gets locked.
Locked tight.
No more free deposits. You are suddenly entirely responsible for paying that aggressive inflation yourself.
No more free deposits.
Yeah.
At the exact moment of birth, time flips its fundamental nature. It goes from being a force of addition to a force of subtraction.
Subtracting your capital.
Yes. Dr. Waleed calls this the time of consumption, or in his terminology, zaman al-istilak.
Zaman al-istilak. Okay, and this is where his paradox of the dual age comes into play, isn't it?
It is.
Because we are simultaneously living in two completely different timelines once we are born, and they're moving in opposite directions.
Exactly. We have a calendar age, which is the one you celebrate with the cake and the candles. That number goes up 1, 10, 30, 50 years old. We track it meticulously.
We throw a party every time it ticks up.
Right. But we also have a vital or biological age. And that one, it only ever goes down.
It's counting backward.
The moment you are born, you start spending that exact vital capital you saved up in the womb.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? It means you grow on paper, but you shrink in actual existence.
Yes.
Every birthday is not a celebration of gaining a year. It's a marker that you have actively consumed another year's worth of your vital fuel. You literally have less in the tank than you did the year before.
And that is the profound tragedy and beauty, really, of the dual age paradox. You are getting larger in the realm of human record keeping, but you are actively diminishing in the realm of physical and existential energy.
Before birth, time was making you. After birth, time is quite literally eating you.
Eating you, that's it.
But, you know, knowing that time flips at birth is terrifying if it's just a philosophy. What makes this theory keep me up at night is that Dr. Waleed claims this isn't just a metaphor, it's literal thermodynamics.
It is hard physics.
So let's pivot and look at the actual physics of a newborn. How does time physically eat a person? Because he grounds this heavily in hard biology, not just existential musings.
He absolutely does. And to understand the mechanics of the time of consumption, we have to dive into the second law of thermodynamics, specifically the concept of entropy.
Okay, for anyone who hasn't taken a physics class recently, let's unpack entropy really clearly.
Sure.
It's essentially the measure of chaos or disorder in a system, right?
Correct. The second law of thermodynamics is arguably the most unbreakable law in the entire universe. It states that in any closed system, entropy, which is disorder, decay, randomness, will inevitably increase over time.
Things naturally move from order to chaos.
Exactly. A hot cup of coffee cools down and dissipates its heat. A sandcastle crumbles in the wind. A pristine bedroom becomes messy unless you actively expend energy to clean it.
Right.
Now, remember our discussion about the womb. Dr. Waleed points out that before birth, the fetus is an open system. It is constantly receiving a massive flow of organized energy from the mother.
So it's beating entropy.
Because of this influx, the fetus is actually defying standard entropy, yes.
Yeah.
Its internal disorder is decreasing. It is becoming more organized, more complex.
That's the positive entropy flow we mentioned earlier. The universe, via the mother, is doing all the heavy lifting to keep the chaos at bay while you are being meticulously built.
Exactly. But the moment you are born, you transition from an open, heavily subsidized system into a closed system fighting the environment.
You're cut off.
From that moment on, entropy inevitably begins to rise within your own body. You have to start spending your own stored vital energy just to resist this chaos.
Just to exist.
You burn energy just to maintain your internal body temperature against a cold room, to force your lungs to pull in air, to keep your heart pumping against gravity, to digest food. It's relentless.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because Dr. Waleed ties this thermodynamic reality directly to biological aging, specifically what he references as cellular senescence.
Yes.
We start from these basic chemical elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen.
The building blocks.
Right, and his philosophical framework refers to this elemental base as dust. We are built from dust into this incredibly complex, highly ordered, low entropy system in the womb. But after birth, the cells hit a wall. They start degrading. Why? What is the mechanism there?
Well, the mechanism is the biological manifestation of entropy itself. Your cells have to constantly divide and replicate to keep you alive, to repair the daily damage of simply existing.
Okay.
But they lose a tiny bit of fidelity every single time they copy themselves. Think of it like making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy.
Oh, it gets blurrier every time.
Exactly. Over time, they accumulate genetic damage. The telomeres at the ends of your chromosomes shorten. The cells just become less efficient. And Dr. Waleed actually uses something called the free energy principle to explain this dynamic.
The free energy principle, that's a concept from neuroscience and systems biology, right?
Yeah.
How does Waleed apply that to aging?
Yes, originally formalized by Carl Friston. The free energy principle essentially states that any living system is desperately trying to minimize free energy, which, in this context, means minimizing surprise or chaos from the environment so it can stay alive and maintain its structural integrity.
It wants predictability.
Right. But doing so costs vital capital. Your body is constantly predicting the environment and expending energy to correct any deviations. Over time, the sheer unrelenting metabolic cost of fighting the environment simply wears down the cellular machinery.
So let me get this straight. If time is an active force tearing us down post-birth, does that mean every literal breath we take, every single beat of our heart, is essentially us spending the currency we saved up in the womb?
That is the stark, inescapable reality of Dr. Waleed's theory. Yes.
Wow.
Every breath is an expenditure. Every heartbeat is a withdrawal from the savings account. Post-birth life is just the slow, inevitable depletion of your vital balance.
You're just burning down.
You are burning your reserves to resist the universe's natural pull toward disorder.
Yeah.
You aren't just living. You are slowly oxidizing. You are burning.
It is such a profound way to view biology. We aren't just coasting through time, enjoying the scenery. We are actively burning up upon re-entry into the physical world.
Right.
Time isn't a passive breeze we are walking through. It is the literal friction wearing down our cells.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what's fascinating here is how this physical reality completely alters our psychological perception of time.
How so?
Well, if we are constantly depleting our vital energy, if we are constantly burning fuel just to exist, how does that change how we experience the actual length of our own lives?
Which brings us perfectly to the next piece of Dr. Waleed's framework. If we're burning up, why don't we feel the heat? Why does our perception of time change so drastically as we get older? This leads to one of the most striking and honestly somewhat terrifying metaphors in Dr. Waleed's entire body of work.
The stopwatch.
Yes. He says that life after birth is not a wall clock. It is a countdown stopwatch.
The existential stopwatch. It is a brilliant way to frame it because it completely reorients the human experience.
Think about a traditional wall clock. It just spins endlessly. It's a circle that repeats, suggesting this infinite, ongoing expanse of time. It resets every 12 hours.
It makes us feel like time is abundant, like we have all the time in the world.
Right. But a stopwatch implies a fixed, finite duration. It implies an exact starting point and, more importantly, an exact end point.
And Dr. Waleed argues that the button on this stopwatch is pressed the exact second you are born. You leave the womb, you leave that state of maximum potential, and the digital screen on your internal biological stopwatch just lights up.
But it doesn't start at 0 and count up like a standard race timer, right?
No, it starts at your absolute maximum predetermined vital capital. What he calls the musamama, or the appointed time.
The musamma.
Yes. And from that maximum number, it starts rapidly subtracting fractions of a second.
It is a relentless, unstoppable subtraction. And it has a hard, unyielding stop.
A hard stop.
When that internal biological stopwatch hits exactly 0000, the system stops. The biological machinery halts instantly.
The vital energy is fully depleted. There is no borrowing more time. There are no extensions. There is no rewinding.
This psychological framing, the countdown, it leads to Dr. Waleed's explanation for something I think every single person listening to this has felt at some point. The illusion of a long life.
Yes, that feeling of time flying.
You know, you ask someone who is 80 years old where the time went, and they almost always say it went by in a flash. It feels like just yesterday I was 20. Dr. Waleed addresses this directly, doesn't he?
He does.
He explains why, at the end of life, or in his theological framing, on the day of judgment, an entire 70 or 80-year lifespan feels retrospectively like it was only an hour of a day.
And the reasoning is deeply, inextricably tied to the thermodynamic physics we just discussed. Why does a lifetime feel like an hour? Because the time of consumption, your entire post-birth existence, is entirely characterized by the rapid, constant burning of energy and increasing entropy.
Right.
When you are constantly expending energy, when your cells are constantly degrading, and you are perpetually moving from a state of high order to lower order, the physical reality of that process is incredibly fast and narrow.
So because we are effectively burning down rather than building up, the subjective experience of that burn feels fleeting.
Exactly.
We think we lived a long time because the calendar says we survived 80 trips around the sun, but the vital experience of burning through our existence is just a quick, intense flash of consumption.
Let's compare it again to the womb. In the womb, time felt expansive because it was adding to you. It was building your reality, expanding your mass and complexity.
It was a creative force.
Right. But outside the womb, time feels compressed because it is taking away from you. The physical truth of a life spent resisting entropy is that it is a very short, very intense expenditure of energy.
Like striking a match.
Yes. Perfect analogy. The match might sit in the box for years. That's the potential, musama. But once you strike it, the actual burn is brief and violent.
To bring all these phases together so you listening can really see the whole board, Dr. Waleed synthesizes this into what we could call an ultimate time equation.
The 4 phases.
Yeah, let's walk through those carefully.
Yep.
He maps out 4 distinct phases of the existential clock.
Okay, so phase 1 is the count up. This is the womb. The time of formation, Zamanokat Queen.
Yeah.
This is the era of building, of positive entropy flow, and adding vital energy to the system.
Phase 2 is the countdown. This is life after birth, the time of consumption, Zaman al-Ishtirak. This is where the stopwatch is actively running, depleting your reserves, fighting environmental entropy, and burning your vital capital.
Right. Then phase 3 is the stopwatch itself hitting absolute zero. This is death.
Okay.
But crucially, in Dr. Waleed's framework, death is not a disappearance into nothingness. It is not a void. It is a freezing of worldly time.
A freezing.
The system halts.
Yeah.
The countdown stops.
Yeah.
You are suspended in that exact state, frozen at zero on the existential stopwatch.
And then phase 4 is the restart. This is resurrection. Now, Dr. Waleed posits this as a completely new timeline with entirely new physics, right?
Yes, entirely new physics.
It's not just waking up back on Earth. It is the beginning of a different kind of existence that is no longer governed by the worldly stopwatch of consumption.
Exactly. Count up, countdown, stopwatch, restart.
Yeah.
It is a complete closed-loop system of existence that perfectly maps the biological to the existential and finally to the theological. It's just a very elegant, self-contained architecture.
Okay, so we are all on this countdown stopwatch right now. The button has been pressed For me, for you, for every single person listening.
It's ticking right now.
But here is the critical question that naturally arises. Do we all count down at the exact same speed? Like if I have a Musama, a set amount of vital capital, does the stopwatch burn through its numbers at a constant, unchangeable rate for every human being? Or is there variability?
Well,
Wait, let me guess. If it's based on physics and friction, there has to be a way to accidentally hit the fast forward button.
you are spot on. This raises perhaps the most important, actionable question in his entire theory. And it is where Dr. Waleed introduces a fascinating claim about human agency and responsibility.
Oh, interesting.
He argues that while the predetermined capital, the total amount of energy you start with, is set, the rate at which you burn through it is not entirely fixed.
Really?
Yes, the speed of the stopwatch can be altered. Human behavior, and specifically human inputs, literally alter the speed of time within the body.
Dr. Waleed frames this around the concept of the mithaq, or the covenant, and he divides our inputs into two stark categories: pure and corrupt sustenance. And we aren't just talking about a healthy diet of leafy greens here, right? We're talking about something much deeper.
Much deeper. It is a holistic, encompassing definition of sustenance. Yes, it includes the physical food you eat, the literal calories and nutrients.
Sure.
But it equally includes the thoughts you consume, the ideologies you internalize, the media you absorb, the actions you take, the ethical nature of how you earn your living.
So your entire lifestyle.
It is your entire physical and spiritual diet. Dr. Waleed argues that the aggregate quality of this overarching diet directly impacts the literal gears of your biological stopwatch.
Now, before we dive into the actual mechanics of how a thought can grind those gears, it's really important to clarify here for you listening how Dr. Waleed constructs this part of his theory.
Yes, the terminology.
Right. In his work, he uses very specific historical and theological archetypes from his deep Quranic analysis to categorize these inputs. He associates pure sustenance with maintaining the biological gears in their natural state.
The default state.
Exactly. But when describing corrupt or unlawful sustenance, he frequently uses the terminology of the children of Israel. In his framework, he uses this term as a structural theological archetype to represent methodologies of alteration, impurity, or complex ideological twisting away from the natural order.
Right.
To be absolutely clear, we are simply mapping Dr. Waleed's chosen theoretical framework here. We are outlining his model where he uses this specific term as a structural metaphor to describe inputs that violate human biology. We aren't taking a side or endorsing the terminology. We are simply looking at the blueprint of the theory he has built.
Right. It is essential to understand his model structurally to grasp the physics he is proposing. In his view, there is an intended, natural, pristine order to what the human vessel is meant to consume. These are the pure inputs. When you consume these pure inputs, you are providing the optimal, intended fuel for your biological machinery.
The gears are well lubricated.
The gears of your internal stopwatch are perfectly lubricated. The system operates exactly as designed.
Let's use an analogy to ground this for the listener. Imagine your biological stopwatch is a high-performance, finely tuned engine.
Okay, a sports car.
Yeah. If you put premium, high-grade, perfectly refined oil into that engine, it runs efficiently. It purrs. The parts glide smoothly against each other with minimal resistance.
It's optimized.
Right. That represents the pure inputs Dr. Waleed talks about. The engine still burns fuel, you are still in the countdown phase, you are still aging, but it burns it at the most optimal, steady, and sustainable rate mathematically possible.
But what happens when you introduce the corrupt inputs? In Dr. Waleed's framework, consuming the unlawful, the altered, the impure, whether that is toxic food, toxic environments, or toxic dissonant ideologies, is the literal equivalent of pouring handfuls of jagged sand directly into that high-performance engine.
Oh, man. Sand in the gears. That was a brutal image, but it makes total sense thermodynamically.
It is brutal. And the physical consequence, according to Dr. Waleed, is severe destructive friction.
Friction.
When you introduce corrupt inputs, you create immense friction within your biological and existential gears. And what does friction do in any physical system?
It creates heat and chaos.
It generates excess heat and wildly, uncontrollably increases entropy. The system has to work incredibly hard, expending vast amounts of extra energy just to force the gears to turn through the grit and the sand.
So if I'm understanding the mechanism right, If you hold a deeply corrupt ideology or you are consuming sustenance that fundamentally clashes with your biological design, you are creating cognitive and cellular dissonance. Your body produces stress hormones, cortisol spikes, your heart rate variability drops. You are literally generating internal thermodynamic friction.
Exactly.
And the biological response to that friction is that the countdown stopwatch has to accelerate to compensate.
You've hit the nail on the head regarding the mechanism. Because the system is fighting so much internal disorder caused by the bad inputs, the physiological stress of processing impurities, it burns through its vital capital much, much faster.
Wow.
It takes exponentially more energy to digest bad food, to process toxic thoughts, to sustain a life that is fundamentally out of alignment with the natural order. You are forcing the engine to redline just to idle.
Dr. Waleed notes a very specific, tragic result of this accelerated countdown, doesn't he? He points out that when the stopwatch spins too fast due to this friction, you get a rapid depletion of not just physical energy, but mental energy.
Yes, cognitive decline.
The mind degrades before the clock even hits zero. You reach a state of senescence, of cognitive decline prematurely because the entire system has been exhausted by internal friction. You essentially burn out your brain trying to process the sand in the gears.
Conversely, maintaining the pure diet, the premium oil, the alignment with the natural order, allows the stopwatch to tick down smoothly. It preserves the intellect. It maximizes the human potential over the entire duration of the countdown.
You still hit zero.
Right. Everyone hits zero, but you arrive there with your faculties intact, having burned your vital capital efficiently, rather than wasting it on internal friction.
It is a profound level of accountability. I mean, we aren't just passive victims of time helplessly watching the clock.
No, not at all.
Our daily choices in what we consume, physically, mentally, spiritually, are either lubricating the gears of our lifespan or literally grinding them to dust. We are actively modulating the speed of our own decay.
That's beautifully put. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we've spent all this time exploring how time works inside a single human body.
Right, a micro level.
We've looked at the count up in the womb, the countdown in life, the thermodynamics of cells, the friction of our choices. But Dr. Waleed is a systems thinker, and he doesn't stop at the boundary of the human epidermis.
He goes bigger.
He zooms all the way out. He asks a massive question. Does the cosmos itself age the same way a human does?
And his answer is a resounding, fascinating yes.
Yes, it is.
He takes this entire biological architecture, the womb, the birth, the countdown, the friction, and maps it seamlessly onto the universe itself. This brings us to his massive historical and cosmic theory regarding the epochs of time, specifically what he calls the Qarnayn, or the 2 centuries before Adam.
Yes. This is where the theory becomes truly grand in scale. Dr. Waleed posits that the universe itself runs on this exact same dual time cycle.
The macro mirroring the micro.
The macro is a perfect mirror of the micro. He theorizes that before the human archetype Adam ever existed, the timeline of creation was measured in what the Quran refers to as Qarn, or centuries.
But I want to clarify for the listener, he isn't using the word century to mean exactly 100 Earth years, right? That would be far too small a scale for the universe.
Yeah, no. Century, in his framework, denotes a complete cosmic cycle, a massive, unimaginable epoch of time.
Okay.
He argues that before Adam, there was an entire cosmic cycle comprised of 2 distinct halves. The first was the century of birth.
The macro count-up.
Yes, a period of phenomenal rise, of building, of cosmic organization, expanding galaxies, and increasing complexity.
So the universe was in the womb, essentially.
Exactly.
The Big Bang was conception, and the universe was experiencing its own Zaman al-Takwin, gathering mass, building stars, lowering its own entropy.
Exactly. The universe's own time of formation. But then, just like human birth, the universe hit a massive inflection point. The century birth peaked, the cosmic womb opened, and it transitioned into the century of death.
Macro countdown.
A period of fall, of increasing entropy, of the universe beginning to consume its own vital energy, stars burning out, chaos increasing.
And Dr. Waleed associates this massive pre-Adamic cycle of rise and fall with previous entities, right? Or an archetype he refers to as the macro Israeli man.
Right, representing a grand historical cycle that rose to incredible heights of order and then inevitably fell into decay and entropy.
So the entire universe lived a life, built itself up, and then started burning down. It experienced the dual age.
It did.
But then we have the shift, the creation of Adam. How does the terminology and the scale change after Adam arrives on the scene?
Well, after Adam, Dr. Waleed points out that the terminology in his precise Quranic framework shifts deliberately. It moves from Kornain, the grand cosmic centuries, to Umran.
Umran, which means individualized ages or lifespans, right?
Exactly.
So what does this shift actually mean for us today walking around on Earth?
It means the actor on the stage changed. The massive, sweeping pre-Adamic entities or epochs were replaced by Adamic humans. The scale shifted from these unimaginable cosmic epochs down to the individualized, localized human lifespan.
Okay, the scale got smaller.
But, and this is the absolute crux of his grand unified theory, the law of physics governing the timeline remained perfectly mathematically identical.
So the script changed, the actors changed, the stage got smaller, but the physics engine running the entire simulation stayed exactly the same.
Exactly. Every single human life, every Umran, is a flawless micro-reflection of the macro universe. You have your cycle of rise, your age of life, which is your time in the womb,
Right.
and you have your cycle of fall, your age of death, which is your time walking the earth fighting entropy. The fractal nature of Dr. Waleed's theory is what makes it so robust. The rules that govern the death of a star are the exact same rules that govern the senescence of your cells and the ticking of your biological stopwatch.
What's absolutely fascinating here is Dr. Waleed's grand conclusion. When you step back and look at this entire structure, from the single cell dividing in the dart of the womb to the friction of a stressful thought, all the way up to the massive epochs of the cosmos rising and falling, the universe is just a repeating wave.
It is. It's a unified mathematical, biological, and existential matrix.
It's beautiful, really.
It is a wave that rises and falls with perfect rhythm, creation and count-up, entropy and countdown, the stopwatch freezing at zero, and the restart of a new wave in a new dimension.
It is an incredibly elegant, if somewhat sobering, view of reality. The universe breathes in and the universe breathes out. You are built and then you are spent.
It really does reframe everything.
It fundamentally changes how you look at yourself in the mirror. To concisely recap Dr. Waleed's grand architecture for you listening, you are not simply getting older.
No, you're not.
Older is a myth of the calendar. You were built incredibly carefully against the forces of cosmic chaos in a time of formation where the universe invested immense energy into you.
The open restaurant.
Exactly. And right now, at this very second, as you listen to my voice, you are spending that vital energy in a time of consumption. You are writing a biological countdown stopwatch.
Ticking down to zero.
And crucially, the speed at which that stopwatch is burning through your life is heavily influenced by the purity of what you consume, by the ideological and biological friction you allow into your system.
The next time you look at a calendar, or the next time you gather around to celebrate a birthday, realize that the number is only telling you the story of your outward administrative expansion.
The paperwork.
Exactly. Meanwhile, your internal vital energy is doing the exact opposite. You're contracting towards zero. You're actively burning the fuel of your own existence.
Which leaves us with a lingering question, something to really chew on long after you finish listening to this deep dive.
It's a tough question.
It is. If our worldly existence is just a biological stopwatch continuously ticking down toward zero, and the exact speed of that clock depends on the friction we introduce into our lives, what is the biggest source of friction you are feeding your own biological clock right now?
Is it a toxic environment, a corrupt ideology, a continuous state of stress?
And more importantly, how much time is it costing you off your internal stopwatch without you even realizing it? When you blow out the candles on your next birthday cake, are you celebrating the time you have left, or are you just ignoring the speed at which you are burning it away?